Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wrestling fans. This is Ohio Northern's first podcast of a series where I, Coach McClay, get a chance to meet with our team and pick their brains on wrestling-related topics, their college experience, or just facts, stats, tips, and tricks, and general information that might help some of you or someone you know. Our goal is to show off all the hard work our wrestlers have done to get as far as they have, and maybe along the way help young wrestlers avoid the same mistakes we've made. Now, a little disclaimer, this is our very first episode, and we as coaches have no clue how to operate the equipment, so regardless, the content is still there, and it'll give you a great opportunity to meet our coaches. So without a further ado, we'll pick up right as I push the record button, so...
Have like questions you're gonna ask?
Honestly, I was gonna freestyle it. So This is our very first podcast of the ONU wrestling team.
Yeah, bro.
I myself, Coach McClay, and with me is Coach Kyle, Coach Quiet. So did I say that right?
Yeah, quiet. Like be quiet.
Yeah. Do you get that a lot?
I've never heard that joke either.
So pretty much how I wanted this to be is just kind of like a conversational piece. Right. So I figured the best way to start a conversation to ask someone about themselves. So I know you have a 5-minute speech to wrap up your resume. Tell me about who is Kyle.
Well, I mean, things change over time. I mean, probably back in college, I would have defined myself by, what I did in college wrestling wise. Now with one kid and one on the way, probably more dad and coach than anything. Really excited to bring a baby boy into the world here, hopefully sometime in November.
So a boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl.
You got lucky.
I'm excited. I don't know. I think we're lucky just to have 2 kids in general. We're pretty pumped to be able to have the experience of raising a daughter, and then also have the experience of raising a son here soon. So my wife is one of 2 in the family, and she comes it's just 2, her and her sister, so she's used to girls, and I think her mom doesn't really understand what a boy is.
So this boy is going to be surprised for the whole family.
What deal was like as far as like raising him goes, because she's let some things, she said some things about it
he's gonna be a mom's boy.
That makes me kind of laugh, because I grew up with 5 siblings, me included. So
that's a big family.
I'm one of 5. I'm the oldest, and 4 of the 5 were boys. So,
so the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So we know how boys are, and
how boys can be, how girls can be. Well, they all come with different challenges. I don't have any kids myself, but like all my friends are growing up and having kids, so they're telling me, girls are hard. They got makeup, and you gotta like, and they'd be like, well, guys are hard because you gotta worry about all this.
Yeah, I've heard all the different sayings about boys versus girls. The most common one I've heard is that girls are the easiest early, and the boys are hard early when they're young, because the boys are trying to like jump off of stuff. And
that was definitely me, 100%.
And then girls are just so sweet and nice, and that's been pretty true for Tessa so far. She's starting to get to the terrible.
She gives me mugs every day.
What's that?
She gives me me mugs every day.
Oh, yeah.
She just looks at me like, no, not you.
Strangers. We're getting her in with the daycare right now, so that she kind of at least has to deal with other little kids, and she loves it. So, but yeah, then the boys are the opposite as they get older. Once the girls hit the teenage years, then it's all
it's a wrap.
Boys and just social status stuff. And guys are kind of like, I don't really care.
That's gonna be fun.
I just want to play sports.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, I'm really excited about those 2 aspects coming up of my life. Right now, COVID is kind of putting a little bit of damper on everything. We're really hoping that this can resolve itself soon. There's talk about vaccine coming down the pike.
Yeah.
So
I have a good feeling about it. With all things considered, I think with all the testing we're doing, everything, the results we're showing, I feel like we're gonna be good for at least this season.
Well, I hope so, man.
Fingers crossed, right?
Crossing my fingers.
Knock on wood,
trying to be
all
optimistic as much as I can. But and then as far as wrestling goes, I mean, ONU grad. I wrestled in high school for the Calvert High School in Tiffin, Ohio.
In the middle of nowhere. I never heard of it.
Go Senecas. Hey, we used to be really good. Back when I was in school, we were top 10 in the state. We got 7th in state really duels. Good. We were legit, man. We were pretty good, and we were pretty tough. But placed 3 times in high school, Division III, so small school, not a whole lot of accolades coming from the Division III program in the OHSAA.
Now, what got you started into wrestling? Like, why wrestling? Why not football, basketball,
that's
baseball?
That's a good question, actually. When I first started wrestling, I moved down to – my parents split up when I was in, like, the 4th grade. And we used to live in Michigan, actually, up until that point. So we lived Rockwood, Michigan. Yeah, just right over there, south of Detroit, kind of. I think it's south of Ann Arbor. I don't know, something. It's around
somewhere around there.
I haven't been back ever once. I haven't been back really, but we used to live up there through my 4th grade year, and then parents split up and we moved down to Ohio, and Ohio's a little bit bigger wrestling. You know, more into it. There's a lot more people that are pushing it, and it was just kind of right place, right time with Calvert. You know, they were the coaches that ended up being my head coaches in high school were just getting into wrestling coaching at that point, and they were building up the biddy program, and Calvert had a really big biddy program, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'll give it a shot. We had some friends that kind of encouraged me to do it, and it was like love at first, practice. So I went in there, and it was I just felt like it was right. Like I knew, and I was pretty good at it right off the bat, to the point where my first tournament ever was this little bitty tournament in Corey Ross in Ohio, literally right down the road from here. It's like a stone's throw away from Ada, which is funny that I ended up in college in Ada. It was my first ever tournament was in Corey Ross, and my mom entered me into it, and she's like thinking I'm gonna get my butt kicked, and she's like. She was jokingly said like something like, "Hey, I'll buy you a Game Boy if you win," or something. Like, she didn't think I was gonna win it. She didn't think I was gonna win it. And
hey, the Game Boys were expensive back then.
Oh yeah,
they were like
Game Boy Advance
too.
Yeah, it was the next level.
Oh, that was a colored one.
And I wanted that dang Game Boy, so I went out there and I beat the crap out of everybody in one tournament, and then my mom's like, and I was like, "Where's my Game Boy?" She had to give me one.
She's like, maybe Santa will bring one for Christmas.
Right. So that was kind of the origins of it, and from then on, I won that first tournament. It was like summers at off, like just constantly going to open tournament, or just little bitty tournaments all over the place. We hit the circuit, man. We were all over Ohio, going places and wrestling, and then I started to go to the Jordan camps down in Dayton area.
St. He's a Jordan kid.
Jordan train, baby. Yeah. We went there every summer. My brothers and I, and learned a lot there. And it's
he has a good camp.
Oh yeah. That's where we got to the point where Jeff would just like give my mom gear because she spent so much money sending all of us kids there every single year. They knew her by name, like, hey Karen, how's it going?
Which son is this? 1, 2, 3.
Buy us something, and then Amy Jordan, Jeff's wife, would be like giving her some stuff.
There's a little bit of love right there.
But just those camps really then shaped me kind of toughness wise, and got to roll around with some of the better kids on the team from Graham, so I got to wrestle with some of the really good kids that they'd have come into the camps and stuff, as counselors and whatnot. And, one of my first ever counselors at camp was David Taylor.
That is a good counselor for sure.
Cameron Doggett. He's at Mechanicsburg now. He was at Kent Ridge. Really, really talented wrestler for them as well. I've wrestled with Ben Jordan. Bo was a little small at the time for me, but he was younger, and just get to be around those guys and see their ability and learn from them is pretty awesome.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron for sure. Having a good partner is so important. Can't stress that.
Yeah.
But
so then, and once we moved up to high school, my coaches Matt Coleman and Mike Steyer, they were young and just married or just starting their families. So they were really in the right. It was right time, right place. A lot of times a lot of things, because these guys put in lots of time to that program and really pushed it to the level that it was. And I mean, I graduated with 33 kids from high school, so like really, really small. But our wrestling team, I mean, we had probably 40 kids on it, 40 guys, and we filled in a full roster, which for Division III, that small school, is pretty tough. I mean, it's like 15 weight classes. What's the weight class?
It's like 15, 14. I forget sometimes. It's probably bad we're coaches.
Right. I feel like I should know that off the top of my head. I know I probably could name them all.
I can do them in order. I don't know.
I don't know the exact overall number, but yeah, they did a really, really great job and pushed me. They were always trying to find me a loss. They knew that I wouldn't listen to them as far as what technique to do unless I took a loss that weekend. Right. So they were constantly taking us to bigger and bigger tournaments.
I feel like that's a positive problem.
Yeah, we started going. Little tiny Calvers started going to the GMVWA, which back in the day was really tough. The Graham brought their full lineup and everything to it. It was a holiday tournament down in Dayton.
I hated
and then to the point where my senior year they took me to the Ironman, so as a single admission, so that was brutal too. It's a tough one. I always tell people my weight class. I was up at 71 at the beginning of my senior year, and the guy who won it was Ed Ruth. The guy who got second was Ethan Lofthouse from Iowa. He was a multiple-time All-American. And the guy who got third was Chris Phillips from Monroeville. Some people might not remember him, but he was one of the best ever high school wrestlers. And got just to prove that point, the kid he beat in the third and fourth place match was Nick Heflin from Perry, who ended up being a national runner for Ohio State. So.
Dang. That's a big name right there.
Yeah, that was a brutal weight class. And then, at college, rolling in, a little kid on campus. I didn't have any idea what to expect as far as, was I even going to be able to start?
Right. I feel like everyone has that same thought, like, holy snap.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I was, again, kind of right place, right time, and on some more, advantages I had in college. But I remember there was a kid I lost to my junior year at the state tournament. Like, he whooped my butt. And he went to Mercyhurst out of high school, but he transferred to Ohio Northern. So I came in, and he was a transfer sophomore, and I was a freshman, and we were at the same weight class. And he destroyed me in my junior year in the first round at state tournament. I did not expect it. And so that was another reason why I was like, man, am I going to be able to start this year? So Kyle Raber is the name, by the way.
Did you hear that, Kyle Raber?
Yeah.
Shout out to Kyle Raber.
shout out Kyle Raber. He ended up going 84, and we ended up being really good drill partners and stuff throughout the time we were at Northern. But the right place, right time thing comes from what Luke Miller was a really big influence in me early on in college. He was a returning All-American, and I'm just this little freshman from a tiny little high school in Tiffin, Ohio, graduated with 33 kids, like I said, and I was just like, teach me. What do you do? How do you do this? I want to get to that level, and I basically just threw myself at the mercy of Luke and said, what are you doing? How do you do it? I want to learn.
Luke was good on top, bottom, neutral?
Top. He was phenomenal on top, and that's where I learned a lot. And I had, in high school, I was not a prolific scorer on my feet, but I was really good defensively. So if a kid could get to my legs, that's fine. I'm going to try to counter your shot and score off of it. That was my MO.
You don't have my legs. I got your arm.
Yeah, exactly. So I was a good rider on top, but I wasn't really a great scorer on top in high school. And what Luke helped me learn was how to score. He was a leg rider as well, but he would rip your arm off with a power half. Like, he was very, very good with that. He'd go with a power half at a bar sometimes, and he would just wrench your shoulders off and beat you with them. And he also did the hip turk that I really started. Really kind of, I felt like I perfected throughout my college career, that was what I learned from Luke and used more of, I think, than he did, probably. I think he liked, running the power half and the bars a little bit more. He still used the hip turk, don't get me wrong, but I think I definitely was the opposite way. I preferred the hip turk. Like, I was going to put you on your back 6 different times and tech you. But that was huge. Like, having not only a returning All-American, a weight class or 2 below me, but having him also be a leg rider that could show me how to develop what I already was doing from high school. It was just
right. It was just the perfect match.
Right. It was nuts. It was the perfect place, the perfect time, and plus our room. I mean, it was tough. We had some really good kids. We won the conference in 2012 and 13. We were very good back then, and again, really lucky to be on that team to be able to accomplish those things, but also push me in the room and push me on. So
how would you describe your style? Like, from the start of the match to the end of the match, what are you thinking?
Jeez.
Let's start with period 1 on your feet. What are you thinking?
What are you talking about? When I was in college, or what am I thinking now? Because I feel like I'm even better now than I was in college.
Oh, right. Like, I feel the same way.
I feel like
I could go back.
I watched some of my matches from college. And I'm like, how did I ever win matches? I have no idea.
You just pick apart your own technique.
Like,
I'm trash.
I don't know what I was doing. But when I was in college, probably first, at least by the time I graduated, I started developing a lot more on my feet. But early on, very much. The joke was that, like, I don't think I got the first takedown in probably 3/4 the matches that I wrestled.
Really?
I'm pretty sure everybody took me down right off the bat. So early on, it was get taken down, force him to throw a boot in, reverse him, and then get on top and throw the boots.
That was the strategy. That was the winning strategy.
I mean, I don't know.
It works.
It wasn't. It was something that people didn't expect, because I think they, started to. They came into the match thinking, this kid's, supposedly ranked or whatever. At least my freshman year, I got to the point where I was ranked at some point towards the end of the year, and they'd get in on a single and they'd finish, and they're like, that was really easy. And then all of a sudden they're getting reversed because I hopped over their leg and forced them to throw a boot in.
Right.
So not that I would recommend that to anyone, and I'm not teaching
high risk, high reward.
I'm not teaching that to any of our guys for sure.
Right.
But as I got older, I definitely started to hone my neutral technique, try to figure out a little bit better, stay in better position, stay low. Try to develop an offensive shot, and by the time I got to my senior year, I could pretty much take down anybody with that elbow post knee pull single that I hit. Just being.
And that was the big difference between All-American and then winning it.
Probably. I think the biggest difference was changing my stance. One of the big things I remember from my junior year when I won my first title was I got whooped in the finals of the Wheaton Invitational out in Chicago by this kid, D2. He was a 3-time runner-up in D2 from UW Parkside. Luke Reinisch was the name.
Reinisch.
He smacked me in the finals at Wheaton because I was just terrible on my feet, and he just kicked me. Like, he's just like, I'm just not going to wrestle with you on the mat. I don't need to. I can just keep taking you down. And that was what really opened my eyes. And I changed from that point on. In January, my stance quite a bit. I really focused every day in practice on lowering myself and keeping my hands in front of me and not letting kids just get to my leg. That really helped not only me not getting taken down, but it kind of gave me a little more confidence on my feet to kind of I can get to the legs, I can stop him from shooting or from scoring that easily. And then once I was able to slow and gum up the works against guys on my feet to prevent them from just being able to score at will, that really swung matches in my favor, because second and third period, going top and bottom, you have to make a decision, right? Like, are you going to try to risk it and go under me and try to get that one escape point? Because that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get a point from you right away. Either that, or I'm going to try to reverse you. So there was a lot of kids who just wouldn't take that down
I'm one of those
go
kids.
down against me. So that really changed matches. If you couldn't take me down, then I'm a big time favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my junior year, kind of. Also, just learning how to loosen up too on that. I remember that was a big moment for me. My junior year was at Wheaton, and then the other big moment was at nationals. My junior year against kid from UW La Crosse. This kid just I couldn't beat him. Like up until that point, he was the antithesis of everything I did. Like, he was a scorer on his feet. He was a nasty blast double, and he would just bait you into it every time. And I would just I couldn't stop him. And he beat me so bad my sophomore year at nationals that I actually thought the match was over after the second period. I took my anklets off.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
I was getting my butt whooped that bad, but that was the motivation I needed going into my junior year, because I thought about that a lot over the summer.
Oh, yeah, that had to eat at you for a whole summer.
It was terrible. It was the worst. I've never, that was one thing that I just thought about it all the time. Yeah. Every time I was done lifting, I was like, I got to do something else. I'm not done yet. I need to go do some, sprints around the indoor track at the Y or something. Like, I just need to burn myself up and kill myself, because I'm never going to let that happen ever again, because I was so embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
So then I saw him again in the semifinals my junior year.
Oh, how'd that go?
Well, I ended up beating him, obviously, but the one thing that really had an impression on me from watching him was how he prepared for our match. Warming up, I distinctly remember my old philosophy was like, I got to stay focused. I'm going to get, slap my face, really zone in and get ready. I'm going to beat the crap out of this kid. Well, I'm doing that, my normal routine before a match, and I look over at him with his coaches, and he's laughing. He's just sitting over there smiling and laughing with his coaches. He's loose. He's ready to go. He knows he's been training and doing everything he needs to do. And I look at him and I'm like, throughout high school and throughout every point of my career to this point, I've never won this match. This big time postseason semifinal match. I've never made it to the big stage in high school level. I never was in the finals or anything. Like, why am I continuing to do the same thing that's always gotten me to this point? Maybe I should change something. What's the harm? If I lose it doing this way, or I lose going the other way,
right.
What's the difference? So at least this way it gives me a shot, because I'm doing something different, I think, in my brain. So I tried as much as I can going into the match, just being calm and trying to.
That makes a huge difference.
And try to rely and lean on my ability and my technique and my coaches. I'll never forget Ron and Rob Yarmark at the time were like, hey, we got this match planned out. If you just don't get taken down in the first period, we're gonna win this match. And I'm like, to myself, I don't know. I'm taking him down. Like, you don't understand.
Right. It's been a year.
And they're I don't know, I can't remember if I told that to them pre-match or not, or if I just said okay and then went out there and did my own thing. Because I think probably 10 seconds into the match, I took my elbow post knee pull single that I've been practicing, and deep in on a leg, and I scored, and it was like boom right away, and I kind of set the tone. And I ended up by the end of the match, I ended up putting him on his back with my boots in. It was one of those.
You got your payback.
Yeah, it was one of those moments that you just. It was a lot of.
It was more than just a win.
It was definitely not even just more than just being at semifinals at nationals win, like put you in the finals match. Like, it was just it was one of those moments that you just never forget. It was like just a accomplishment level 1,000. Like, we were just
like, you just proved yourself.
Exactly, and it was this is the kid that I was thinking about all summer long. I was thinking about this match. All summer, and to get that win was huge. Then, going my junior year into the finals, another kid that I'd lost to the previous year at nationals. So both the kids that I lost to at nationals my sophomore year, I ended up beating my junior year to win it.
Dang.
So
talk about improvement.
Well, yeah, I mean, just mentally getting back into a better state of mind. I definitely didn't. I kind of slacked off as far as lifting went my sophomore year. Kind of had a sophomore slump. I didn't do what I should have done in the off season in my sophomore year.
Now, how did you keep motivated throughout the year? You just keep thinking about that loss?
My junior year was for sure that loss. Like I thought about that match, Mike Schmidt from UW lacrosse, my sophomore year in the Concy semis, yeah. And he just shellacked me. He just whooped me up and down, man. It was bad, and that was what I thought about. Then my senior year was tougher. It was hard to, I've heard a couple of different times that success is sometimes the hardest thing to overcome, the hardest obstacle to overcome, because when you have that success as a junior, it's really hard to keep that motivation going into your senior year. I think you could definitely identify with that to some extent, having won it as a junior and then, taking that rough semifinal loss as a senior.
Yeah, that was honestly my national tournaments, my finals for my senior year, my biggest regret probably wasn't even the loss. It was just the weight class. I regretted going 25 my last year. That was the biggest regret I have.
Right.
The loss sucked, don't get me wrong. It stung.
Yep.
It hurt. I was like, dang, I didn't even make it to the finals. Right. But after that, when I wrestled back for third and fourth, my third and fourth place match was the kid who actually won nationals the year before I won nationals. So there was 3 first place guys in my weight class.
Oh wow.
So it was kind of tough, but I ended up getting third that year, and I was pretty happy with it. And went home, graded papers, had a full-time job.
Yeah.
That was a rough year for me.
It's tough, man. Coming back off of a win is it's not easy to stay motivated, and having that thought in my head. And also, I think my senior year I kind of learned a little bit different of a lesson from my junior year. Kind of went too far with the relaxing thing. My senior year at nationals, I almost lost in the semifinals.
That's the magic itch.
Yeah, I almost had the same thing happen that you had happen, and I almost lost to another lacrosse kid, but it was a different lacrosse kid. He was down at 165 the year I won it as a junior, and then he bumped to 74 his senior year and my senior year. But it was just kind of that match, and almost losing that really shook me up to the point where I realized that it's not just stay loose. It's more find your balance. You gotta have the ability. You gotta be loose enough that you're not scared to shoot or move or do anything in the match, but you gotta be zoned in enough to the point where you're just you are ready to go out there and do battle.
I think it is
tough.
If you can keep a practice mindset where you're more than willing to push yourself, but at the same time the outcome doesn't matter.
Right.
Once you get to that point, it's a whole lot easier to win than lose.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah.
So once you put that stress on you where you're just well, I can't mess up.
Right.
That's when you mess up.
And there's a lot of truth to that. I was just trying to. I was learning as I was going, and when I almost lost that match, my senior year in the semis, I was boom, I need to there's a line here, and you got to walk it. When you start veering one way too far or the other way too far, it has its own consequences. So you really have to just kind of find that middle, and just live in it. Really push yourself, be ready, but also don't be so zoned in and hyped up that you're gonna mess yourself up. So that was going into my senior year, my finals match my senior year. Then I majored the kid in the finals, and
that's a huge accomplishment.
It was just a difference of mind shift. It wasn't anything there wasn't a different person from my semifinals to my finals match. It was just not dicking around.
I get that. I remember my finals match the year I won it. I remember being so nervous when they're doing they called your name up and you had run to the stage. I remember being so nervous, I completely tuned out of everything. Didn't hear the announcer call my name or anything. I just heard the the smokestack shoot up beside me.
Yeah.
And it startled me, so I started running towards the stage, and then I realized, no, you got to chill.
Yeah.
So then if you watch like the 2017 Nationals, you'll see me like do like a 2-second sprint and just walk. It's because I wasn't even there mentally.
Yeah.
And I was just so nervous. I was trying everything I could do just to like keep the jitters away.
Right.
I was telling like right before the match, I was like, Coach, I'm gonna hit him with a gator roll. And I was just trying to like say stuff to like throw my mind off, like kind of keep myself from like panicking too much. Absolutely. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a gator roll. You know, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna do it. I was expecting my coach to be like, no man, that's not a good move, and I was just gonna like mess with him. Yeah. But no, he messed with me. He was like, do it. And I was like, really? That wasn't the plan. You were supposed to say no. Yeah. So the very first move that I hit at Nationals,
you
finals,
put him on his back with it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a planned gator roll.
I watched that match. That was awesome.
I chased the ankle. As soon as the ankle picked up, I didn't even have the wrist. I just grabbed both his head and arm, and tucked and rolled.
Boom.
And like he stopped halfway. I was on my back for a second. I was like, oh snap. Yeah. I thought I lost the match right there.
Right. It was.
But it worked out in the end. And then the announcer at the end, after the match, that's what made me the most irritated. It's like after you're done wrestling in national finals, for most of us, who don't major our guys in the second period.
Oh.
But for most of us, we're tired, we're exhausted, and like you come off, and then they'll just walk up to you and be like, "So, what'd you think about that match?" And I'll ask you all these questions that
interviews are the worst.
And I'll just be like out of breath. I'll be like, I remember the guy who was asking me questions. I was trying really hard to catch my breath and listen to him. And at one point, I was just like, "Can you repeat the question?"
Well, I seriously, I watch those interviews after they jump off. I'm like, come on, give them a second to get their breath back and like meet them back in a press room or something and do the interview there. But they're like, nope, ESPN or whoever, we're gonna catch you right off the mat. And then kids, like your brain can't, like you're so locked into that match, and you're so tired coming off of literally one of, if not the toughest match of your college career,
at least for that year.
Exactly. And they're like stuffing a microphone in your face like, hey, what's going on? What did you think about that match? I was like, bro, I can't even remember what happened in that match.
Right.
I'm just
I'm still processing it myself, man. What happened?
Yeah, exactly. It's like they try to run it back a little bit like, oh man, what happened? I don't know this and that.
Yeah, talking is the hardest. Like when you're out of breath, talking is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, and I feel like it looks bad too. Like it kind of makes us look like we're super dumb because some of the kids that are smart kids, but they just can't breathe and they can't think at this after they just won, achieved the pinnacle of their sport, and they're just like step a microphone and ask
I almost
a question
cussed in my interview.
Did you?
Yeah, he was talking about the gator roll, and I was like, yeah. When he stopped me on my back, I thought I almost said dropped an F-bomb. I was like, I messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
But there's that. Now, did you have to do anything special for dieting?
I kind of got myself into a routine. I wouldn't recommend necessarily what I did in college versus kind of what I'm doing now.
What do you recommend now?
Recommend now is watching calories, try to cut out carbs. That's the best way to do it. I'm not saying you need to necessarily cut out all carbs, but I think you can get your weight under control and lose a lot of body fat and keep as much muscle on if you just
I really agree with that.
Keep the protein and fat and cut out as much of the carbs, because you would be shocked if you look at the nutrition label on anything how much sugar or whatever they just throw into it just to make it taste better, and like
literally anything.
Yeah, even if it's just like switching, because like when I got into the season, one of the things I did do that was good was I tried to cut out all pop. I'm not going to drink Pepsi or Dr. Pepper or whatever I was into at that time, and I made sure that I tried to portion out things and really try to be disciplined. Don't put yourself in positions where you have to say no to cupcakes constantly, kind of thing. And that was a big part of what I did. But I probably ate, I tried one meal a day type of thing.
One meal a day? Dang,
that's for the most part. Drinking water during this is what I'm on now, too, is I would probably recommend kind of intermittent fast situation. I really think that's beneficial, and when you get your body set to that you just eat one meal a day, you can drink water or I wouldn't say juice necessarily. Try to find
Sugars.
something with like an artificial sweetener. It's kind of
Mhm.
cheating, but it gives you some sweetness or kind of flavors up your water a little bit during the day, and then get to later in the afternoon before you eat your meal, and then you get all your calories in there. I think that's what I've been doing, and I feel really good. I feel like I've got energy, and I wish I would have done more of it this way. But I kind of was in some ways. I was just eating more carbs than I probably should have been during the season because that's what I wanted to eat. I have a terrible
I remember
sweet tooth, man.
in high school, I worked in the school store, and our school store made cookies.
No.
So I remember in high school having like probably the worst diet a wrestler could have.
Oh gosh.
I would skip whole meals just to have cookies. That would do my nutrition. And I'd pack carrots, celery. I have this whole nice prepared lunch, and I just say you want this? I'm gonna go eat cookies.
Yeah.
And then I'd have 4 cookies, and then for dinner.
That reminds me of Luke.
Yeah, that was 100% me.
When Luke was there my sophomore and freshman years, and he once the season would get over, he'd just swipe into the dining hall, and he'd get a box to go, and he would just line it with Mac cookies. He'd have probably 30 cookies in there, and he'd just walk out with the cookies. And this was after the season, so it wasn't as bad as you and doing it in season. But yeah, I mean, my diet my senior year probably consisted of 90% deli meat, cheese, and those club crackers. I would kind of portion myself out. Okay, you can eat one sleeve of crackers and however much a slice of meat and cheese you could put on there, and that was what I ate after every practice. And then I would always I had a mini fridge. I know this is probably a riveting podcast right here, but I had a mini fridge that the top shelf, it was right next to the freezer, and it would it would get my Powerade just cold enough that when I pulled it out, I could flick it, and it would do that flash freeze thing. So it was all slush. Yeah, it was, and it worked consistently. It was the perfect.
You had a system.
Yeah. So I'd get off of practice, I'd run back to my off-campus house, and then I'd get that Gatorade out, and I would just pound it and drink and eat my club crackers and salami.
That sounds bomb. That sounds bomb. After a hard practice on a hard cut, that sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, also trying not to splurge too much after a match and weigh in and stuff.
Dude, that's the hardest part when you have the option of eating.
Yeah. Without
consequence until Monday.
Right, and that's where we definitely try to. Now, as a coach, I try to tailor things to be a little bit easier, and I also have a better understanding of nutrition now than I did back in college. Because what we do now is we want to make sure that our guys are eating on the way up to the match, because whatever calories you put into you at the tournament after you weigh in you're not going to use that fuel, the whatever bagel and stuff you're putting in your body. That's not going to be used that day. You make you feel less hungry, which would be good, but I see a lot of kids kind of gorging at the tournament, and it's you should have been eating more on the way up to the day of. So that's where we do our pre-weigh-in practice that we do, because we want to encourage our guys, hey, listen, you can be a couple over or a pound and a half over or whatever the day of a match, because that allows you to eat a little bit more, allows you to kind of play with your food a little bit more and get you more nutrition a couple days before a match, which is the most important. And then we'll have a practice. We'll drop a pound and a half or so of water right before we weigh in, and that's water can be reuptaken into the body a lot faster. So you weigh in, we drop down, we weigh in, and then we're hydrated right back up immediately afterwards. So that's the philosophy, the mindset behind why we do that. So we're trying to encourage our guys to eat on the way up to the match and not have to cut so much and be as tight and stay down all the entire time. So I think that really helped the guys a lot. And they hated it because you had to wake up even earlier for the practice. But once they started realizing, hey man, I can eat a lot more, and they don't starve themselves, they're not stopping up their systems as much. They keep their metabolism and their digestion flowing. They realized they could get a lot more nutrition in, and they felt a lot better when they wrestled. So
and it shows.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, this is kind of jumping topics, but the older I get and more removed from competition I get, the more I sound like my coach, if that makes sense. Like, I'm watching myself become like the coach like I've had, saying the same exact things to the same kids who are have the same mindset. And it's crazy how life comes in a full circle. Absolutely. It really is.
No doubt.
But I think that's been a pretty long podcast.
Yeah, how long have we been going for?
I'm pretty good at stopping right here.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. But I'm glad you're doing this. I think this will be fun. We can get kind of a little background on all the guys and also have mine in there too to start it all off.
I feel like that was a good starter.
I think so.
Should we sign off some way?
I don't know. How should we sign off?
Do you have a rapper name?
No. Do you?
No. All right. Well, that's ONU's podcast for the day.
Yep. On the hunt.
On the hunt. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Polar bears on the hunt.
Let's go.